The doors of the Oak Ridge Police Department burst open as if fate itself had kicked them down. A German shepherd, coated in mud and soaked in blood, gasped for breath like he'd just escaped a nightmare, then collapsed onto the linoleum floor. Strapped to his back with torn fabric was the still form of a young girl. Her hair was tangled with dirt and blood, her face ghostly pale, her arms hanging lifeless. God, Deputy Larson breathed, already moving forward. The dog growled faintly, a warning not to come closer. Even on the edge of collapse, he was fiercely protective. Sheriff Mason Cooper stood abruptly, a cold shiver running down his spine. "Is that Jack Mitchell's daughter?" he asked. "Emma, 8 years old, missing for 3 days. And the dog?" Larson knelt as paramedics rushed in. Cooper didn't hesitate. "That's Hunter." Time seemed to slow as they carefully freed Emma and began emergency treatment. Hunter's amber eyes never left her face, not even as blood pooled beneath his paws, not even as his breathing grew ragged. 3 tranquilizer darts had failed to stop him. Whatever hell he'd endured to bring her back was beyond anyone's guess. The room fell silent when a woman in a sleek black suit entered, shrugging off her raincoat. Her FBI badge gleamed beneath her windbreaker. Agent Cassidy Reynolds glanced at the dog and murmured, "He's trying to tell us something." Then, against all odds, Hunter rose. Trembling with pain, he turned toward the door, then looked back with a look that left no doubt, even to the skeptics. "Follow me." Hunter was more than just a dog, not to the Mitchell family, not to Oak Ridge, and certainly not to Emma. 3 years ago, he'd been rescued from a shelter, a battle-worn German shepherd with a notch in his ear and scars like a seasoned warrior. Though they said he was 5, he looked older, as if he'd already lived through more than most. Jack Mitchell hadn't wanted him. At that time, Jack barely wanted anything. His wife Sarah had been murdered in their home, and Jack, once a respected Marine turned contractor, had sunk into grief, trading medals for whiskey, lost in silence and guilt. He only agreed to keep Hunter because Emma refused to leave the shelter without him. She had walked past the puppies and lapdogs, kneeling before the battered shepherd as if she already knew him. "This one," she said softly. "His eyes are as sad as mine." So Hunter stayed. They became inseparable. Emma confided in him secrets no one else knew. She brushed the dust from his coat and whispered stories to him at night. When nightmares came, screaming memories of the night her mother died, Hunter was always there. At first, Jack avoided them both. Hunter was a painful reminder of Sarah. After all, Hunter had been her dog before the tragedy, the only survivor. Jack's failure to protect her was unforgivable in his eyes. In a drunken rage, he abandoned Hunter at the shelter, but Emma brought him back, and Hunter never left again. The morning Emma vanished began like any other Tuesday. Jack dropped her off at school with a hurried kiss and the usual promise, "See you at 3." Hunter sat in the back of the truck, tail wagging, eyes fixed on Emma as she waved goodbye. "She loves that dog more than anything," Mrs. Winters, Emma's teacher, would later say. You could tell. She didn't trust many people, but that dog, he was her whole world. At 3:15, Jack returned to pick her up. The schoolyard was empty. No Emma. The front office said she'd been picked up early due to a family emergency. "Was that you?" they asked. Jack felt the ground shift beneath him. No one else was supposed to take her. Within the hour, Sheriff Cooper had teams scouring the nearby woods. By nightfall, the FBI had stepped in, and Hunter was restless, pacing back and forth, barking urgently, trying to pull Jack toward the woods behind the school. Jack yanked him back, frustrated. "Get a grip," he snapped, as if the dog was just being stubborn. "He's sensing something," Agent Reynolds had warned earlier. Cooper waved her off dismissively. "We've got trained canine units. We don't need a dog with PTSD running around." So Jack locked Hunter away in the laundry room. That night, Hunter's howls echoed so loudly that neighbors shut their windows tight. Take a moment to subscribe to Heroes for Animals for more true tales of bravery, loyalty, and the animals who stand guard when no one else will. This was only the beginning. When Jack finally got home after midnight, Emma was still missing. The search had turned up nothing but shadows. He was unraveling, soaked, chilled, furious at the world. He opened the laundry room door. Hunter didn't rush to food or water. Instead, he headed straight to the study, Sarah's old office, a room Jack hadn't dared enter since the murder. The shepherd scratched at the door, whining and pawing. "What's wrong with you?" Jack snapped, his frustration boiling over. In his anger, he knocked over a bottle of whiskey. The scent filled the air. Hunter recoiled but held Jack's gaze. In those amber eyes, Jack saw something he hadn't seen in years. Not fear, not defiance, but quiet disappointment. Just as Jack was about to lash out again, his phone rang. Agent Reynolds. "We found her backpack," she said. "Miller's Creek. Signs of a struggle." Jack turned back, and the front door was swinging open. Hunter was gone. By dawn, Hunter had already covered 15 miles on torn paws. He'd crossed streams, braved thorny hills, and sniffed through every dead end the world could throw at him. His nose led him beyond Oakage's familiar trails to a place locals called Devil's Backbone, a land of ancient caves, abandoned mining roads, and ghost stories whispered around campfires. That night, hidden beneath fallen logs and branches, Hunter found a bunker. Inside he found Emma, crying, terrified, but alive. Hunter couldn't get through the heavy metal door, but he pressed his muzzle against the narrow gap at the bottom. "Hunter," she whispered weakly. "I knew you'd find me." She told him everything in hushed tones, the scent of cologne, the man who had hurt her mother, the window that was too high to reach, the plan to move her that very night. Hunter growled low, then without hesitation slipped into the darkness, crawling through a ventilation shaft barely wide enough for his body. Somewhere down the hall, a guard muttered, "Blackwood wants her gone by midnight." Back at the station, Agent Reynolds stared at a blinking dot on the map, a new signal from Hunter's microchip, the one she'd activated without telling anyone. She looked at Cooper. He found her. Emma's fingers trembled as they reached through the small gap beneath the metal door. Filthy, bleeding, desperate. On the other side, Hunter pressed his nose to the cold concrete, offering the only comfort he could. "I knew you'd find me," she whispered. Hunter whined softly. The air in that place was wrong. Damp concrete, cigarettes, gun oil, and beneath it all, that familiar chemical cologne. The same scent that had lingered in Jack's house the night Sarah was killed. Hunter hadn't forgotten. Neither had Emma. "They're moving me tonight," she said, voice barely audible. "One of the men? He smells like the one who hurt Mom." Hunter's eyes narrowed, ears twitching toward footsteps approaching down the hall. Someone was coming. He melted into the shadows just as the lock clicked. A guard stepped inside, carrying a tray. "Dinner time, Princess," he sneered. He didn't notice the blur of muscle and fury until it was too late. Hunter lunged from the darkness, jaws clamping down on the man's forearm. The tray crashed to the floor, food scattering across the concrete. The man screamed, reaching for the pistol at his belt. But Hunter was trained for moments like this. He didn't let go. Across town, Jack stood in his kitchen, staring at the shattered whiskey bottle on the floor. Jack stood in his kitchen, the leash still dangling from his hand, the door wide open where Hunter had disappeared into the night. Rain hammered against the windows like a relentless war drum. His breath caught as he recalled the look in Hunter's eyes. Accusation, yes, but more than that, a fierce sense of purpose. He grabbed his phone. The moment Agent Reynolds answered, he said, "He's gone." Inside the bunker, chaos erupted. The guard stumbled backward, crashing into the wall as he struggled to fend off Hunter. Shouts echoed down the corridor. Using the distraction, Emma slipped out of her room. Barefoot and trembling. "This way," she whispered, guiding Hunter toward a storage room she remembered from her first day in captivity. Inside, a narrow window sat nearly 6 feet above the floor. Hunter stopped beneath it. "Do you want me to climb on you?" she asked. The dog stood perfectly still. Emma scrambled up his back, using his broad shoulders for support, pushing herself toward the small window. Her fingers found the latch, which creaked open. A rush of cool air swept in. She wriggled through the gap and dropped into the tall grass outside, heart pounding. "Come on, Hunter." But the shepherd stayed behind. The window was too small for his thick frame. Hunter gave a soft, urgent bark. "They'll catch you," Emma said, tears streaming down her face. Hunter barked again, then turned to face the shouts echoing down the hall. He was buying her time. Emma ran without looking back, not slowing until she heard her name called. "Emma!" She froze. That voice. She spun around. Out of the trees stepped Dr. Sarah Andrews, Oakage's beloved veterinarian, still wearing her lab coat, her vet bag slung over one shoulder. "Dr. Andrews?" Emma gasped. Hunter found me. He's still inside. They're going to hurt him. The woman raised a hand. It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now. She knelt and began rummaging through her bag. Are you hurt? She asked. No, but Hunter, let me check you, okay? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Then Emma caught a scent. Cologne? The same cologne? Emma took a step back. You smell like them. Andrews froze. What did you say? You're one of them. Hunter's ears rang as a gunshot echoed through the bunker. His shoulder burned, but he stayed on his feet. He'd drawn them away. But now, outside, Emma was alone with her. Suddenly, headlights pierced the darkness through the trees. A voice shouted from behind. Emma! Jack Mitchell, soaked to the bone, sprinted through the mud, a gun in his hand. Behind him, Agent Reynolds and 2 armed FBI agents emerged. Hunter found me, Emma cried. He's still inside. Reynolds didn't hesitate. She raised her sidearm, aiming it directly at Dr. Andrews. Hands up, she commanded, but it was too late. The woman had already reached into her bag. Hunter burst from the tree line, crashing into her like a meteor. The syringe flew from her hand as she hit the ground hard. Back in town, news spread quickly. The Oak Ridge Sheriff's Department coordinated a full-scale raid on the bunker. Dozens of agents swept through the forest. Inside, they uncovered evidence of a well-organized trafficking ring. But Blackwood, the beloved philanthropist and youth center founder, was nowhere to be found. So was his inner circle. Only the low-level operatives remained, wounded, arrested, and bewildered. Emma and Hunter were rushed to the hospital. She had minor cuts and bruises. He was barely hanging on. The waiting room at Oak Ridge Memorial was heavy with silence. Jack sat in a corner, his hands stained with blood that wasn't his own. Emma lay curled up beside him, wrapped in a warm blanket a nurse had given her. Every few minutes she stirred and whispered, Is Hunter okay? He's fighting, Jack replied softly, just like he always does. In the veterinary wing, Dr. Patel worked relentlessly. Hunter's condition was critical. Lung trauma, severe blood loss, internal injuries. But still, the dog refused to give up. He's not just surviving, the doctor murmured. He's choosing to. Hours later, Emma sat beside Hunter, gently stroking the fur on his ear. He knew, she whispered. He always knew who hurt Mom. Jack looked at her, puzzled. What do you mean? The man who took me? He wore the same cologne as the man who came to our house the night Mom died, and the same one Dr. Andrews wore. Jack felt the ground fall away beneath him. Blackwood. He had been there. He was the one. Hunter had sensed it all along. Agent Reynolds entered, her arm in a sling. I need to speak with you privately, she said. Jack hesitated, not wanting to leave Emma. Reynolds nodded toward a nurse. She'll stay with her. In the hallway, Reynolds got straight to the point. This is bigger than we thought. Jack stared at her. Blackwood's been running this operation up and down the East Coast, using his youth programs to identify and groom kids. Sarah figured it out. Jack swallowed hard. My wife, she was an investigative journalist. Jack, Reynolds said gently. She didn't just stumble onto this. She was building a case. Jack stared into the distance, the pieces of the puzzle shifting in his mind. She said she was working on something, but never told me what. Reynolds placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. She left behind more than you realize. Later that night, Emma finally fell asleep. Jack sat by Hunter's bedside, whispering, You were trying to protect her that night. I know that now. Hunter didn't move, but his heart monitor beeped steadily. Jack laid his hand on the dog's side. You never gave up, even when I did. The next morning, Reynolds returned with news. Security footage from the station, she said. There's something wrong with Hunter's collar. What? Jack asked. It's thicker than it used to be. We think there might be something inside. They retrieved the collar from storage. A forensic technician carefully cut it open. Inside was a small waterproof capsule containing a micro SD card. Reynolds stared at it almost reverently. Jackpot. As the agents rushed the evidence to a secure lab, Emma pulled Jack into the hospital garden for a brief walk. Hunter, still bandaged, walked slowly beside them. He's looking for something, Emma said suddenly. See how his ears keep flicking? Jack watched closely. He's not just walking, he's scanning. Emma nodded. Mom said he could keep secrets. She said he could find treasure. Jack knelt down, heart pounding. Treasure? She smiled. She'd hide things in the yard and say, "Find the treasure hunter." Jack's breath caught. "Emma," he said gently, "did your mom ever hide anything in the pond behind our house?" Emma tilted her head. "I don't know, but Hunter would." At the mention of Sarah's name, Hunter's ears perked up. He was listening. Jack stood. "I need to make a call." The pond behind Jack Mitchell's house wasn't much to look at, just a few cattails lining the edge, a weathered wooden bench half rotted by time, and murky water reflecting only gray skies and dead leaves. The pond was eerily still, too still, the kind of quiet where grief settles like sediment. But that afternoon, something beneath the surface began to stir. Hunter stood at the water's edge, eyes fixed intently on the dark depths, his muscles tense despite the bandages wrapped around his side. Agent Reynolds crouched nearby, watching him closely. "You really sure about this?" she asked. Jack nodded tightly. "Emma said Sarah used to train him here. Hide things underwater, tell him to find the treasure. Any idea what kind of evidence might be down there?" Reynolds pressed. Jack's voice cracked. "If Sarah hid it, it's big. It's everything." Reynolds exhaled slowly. "All right then. Let's see what this dog's got." Jack knelt beside the German shepherd, running a hand over his soaked fur. "Okay, boy," he whispered. "This is the last thing she asked of you. Let's finish it." He looked Hunter in the eyes. "Find the treasure." Without hesitation, despite his injuries and exhaustion, Hunter stepped into the water as if he'd done it 100 times before. Within moments he was swimming, paddling toward the center of the pond. He paused, then dove beneath the surface. Emma watched anxiously from the safety of the car parked nearby, her hands pressed against the window. Dr. Patel sat beside her, eyes fixed on the pond. "Is he going to be okay?" Emma asked. "He's doing what he was trained for," the doctor replied, "but he's pushing himself harder than any dog should, especially after everything he's been through." At the water's edge, ripples broke the surface as Hunter emerged, something clutched in his mouth. Jack rushed forward and caught the dripping, mud-streaked object. It was a waterproof plastic case about the size of a lunchbox. Without hesitation, Hunter dove back in. By the time he was finished, he had retrieved 5 identical cases. Then, exhausted, he staggered from the water and collapsed at Jack's feet. Reynolds immediately called over her tech team. Inside the first case were photographs, financial documents, and a small voice recorder. Jack recognized the handwriting instantly. Sarah's. Reynolds held up a folder filled with account transfers, company names, and real estate holdings. "This links Blackwood to 3 offshore companies involved in child trafficking," she said, flipping through the pages, breathless. "Jack, this isn't just a case. This is the entire operation." Jack said nothing. He was too busy kneeling beside Hunter, whispering, "Good boy. You did it. You really did it." That night, back at the safe house, Jack couldn't sleep. He sat at the kitchen table, one hand wrapped around a cup of black coffee, the other holding a sealed envelope he'd found in the last case, addressed simply to him, in Sarah's unmistakable handwriting. His fingers trembled as he opened it. Inside was a letter in a small flash drive. The letter was dated the week before her death. "Jack, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. Please know I did everything I could to protect you and Emma. But Blackwood is dangerous. I got too close, and I knew my time was running out. I trained Hunter for this, for the day I couldn't be there. He's not just a dog. He's a safeguard, a messenger, a soldier, but most of all, he's family. Trust him. Even when you can't trust yourself, you're stronger than you think. I love you. I love our daughter. Keep her safe. And when the time is right, expose the truth. Sarah. Jack stared at the letter for a long moment before folding it carefully and pressing it to his chest. The next morning, Agent Reynolds entered, her eyes tired but determined, carrying fresh intelligence. "Blackwood made contact," she said. Jack stiffened. "What?" Jack's voice was sharp. "He's proposing a trade. Emma's safety in exchange for the original evidence. He thinks we only have copies. He doesn't know about the cases from the pond." Jack clenched his jaw. "He wants a meeting, doesn't he?" Reynolds nodded. "Tomorrow night. Private location. You go alone." Jack stared out the window. "It's a trap." "Absolutely," she agreed. "But we'll be ready." Meanwhile, back in town, the story had gone public. Local news outlets were reporting on a heroic dog who had led the FBI to dismantle a child trafficking ring. The hospital was flooded with flowers and cards for Hunter. Strangers sent donations, toys, and treats. One card simply read, "Thank you for bringing her home." That evening, Jack took Emma for a walk around the farmhouse grounds. Hunter walked beside them, slower now but growing stronger each day. "Daddy," Emma said softly, "do you think Mom's proud of him?" Jack looked down at the scarred German shepherd, then at his daughter. "I think she's proud of both of you." Emma stopped, her eyes scanning the horizon. She used to say Hunter could smell lies. Jack smiled. She wasn't wrong. Later, Reynolds listened to the voice recording found in one of the waterproof cases. Sarah's voice was clear and steady. "This is Sarah Mitchell. If you're hearing this, I've likely been killed. Thomas Blackwood is trafficking children through his charities. I have financial records, photographs, and personal testimony. I'm storing it in a place only my dog can access. I'm trusting him with everything. If you find this, don't let him walk away." Reynolds leaned back in her chair. No jury in the country would let him go now. The night of the meeting arrived. Jack wore a hidden wire. Tactical teams were stationed miles away. A drone hovered overhead, tracking the area. The meeting place, an abandoned barn on the edge of an old tobacco field. When Jack stepped inside, Blackwood was already there, same tailored suit, same smug expression. "You look tired, Jack," Blackwood said, adjusting his cuffs. "You look like a man running out of road," Jack replied. "Do you have what I asked for?" Jack held up a briefcase filled with dummy files. "Where's my daughter?" Blackwood smiled coldly. Then came the click of a gun, but before the shot could be fired, the barn's rafters lit up with red laser dots, laser sights from FBI snipers. A voice boomed, "Drop your weapon." Blackwood froze. Seconds later, Reynolds stepped into the light. "End of the line, Thomas." He laughed bitterly. "Took you long enough." Back at the safe house, Jack returned to find Emma asleep on the couch, Hunter curled protectively beside her. He sat down on the floor next to them. "You did it, buddy," he whispered, scratching behind Hunter's ears. "You brought us home." The dog gave a soft grunt and rested his head back down. 2 weeks later, the trial began. Blackwood pleaded not guilty. It didn't matter. The evidence Sarah had preserved, along with Dr. Andrews' full confession, sealed the case. He would never see daylight again. The last time Jack visited Sarah's grave, he brought 2 companions, Emma and Hunter. He placed Sarah's letter and a photo of Hunter taken the day Emma was rescued on her headstone. Then he knelt and whispered, "I kept my promise." Behind him, Emma laid a bouquet of lilies on the grave. "I miss you, Mommy," she said softly. Hunter says hi. The farmhouse was quiet, too quiet. Jack had learned to fear that kind of silence, the kind that hangs heavy after the storm, but just before something worse. He sat on the couch, Emma asleep on his shoulder, her small hand curled into his flannel shirt. Across the room, Hunter lay on a thick blanket, bandages still wrapped around his torso, but his ears twitched, alert even in rest. It had been a week since Blackwood's arrest. The case had exploded across national news. Sarah's name was in every headline. Hunter was hailed as a miracle dog by anchors who didn't even know half the story. And Jack? Jack had become a symbol, a father who lost everything and clawed his way back. But he wasn't thinking about cameras or trials. He was thinking about what Reynolds had told him earlier that day. "We think someone tipped Blackwood off before the raid." She said it had to be someone inside, their own system, and that meant one thing. They weren't safe yet. At 3:07 a.m., the glass in the back kitchen window shattered. Hunter's head snapped up. Jack's eyes flew open. He didn't say a word. He scooped Emma into his arms and rolled off the couch, pressing her down behind the armchair. She stirred but didn't scream, just like he'd trained her. "Stay down," he whispered. Footsteps creaked across the porch. Slow, deliberate. Hunter let out a low growl, the kind that comes from deep in a dog's chest, a sound older than language, older than fear. Jack reached for his phone. No signal. The power had been cut. Then the front door swung open. Framed in the moonlight stood Thomas Blackwood, alive, free, and holding a gun. "Hello, Jack," he said casually, like he was stopping by for coffee. "You've got something that belongs to me." Jack's throat went dry. "You're supposed to be in custody." Blackwood smiled. "Money buys many things. Time, influence, silence. Sometimes it buys freedom. He stepped inside the hardwood, creaking under his boots. Beside him stood Dr. Sarah Andrews, pale, trembling, still clutching her vet bag like it could save her. Jack rose slowly, putting himself between them and the couch where Hunter now stood, growling, his hackles up. "You're not taking her," Jack said. Blackwood didn't even blink. "The girl?"
"Oh, Jack, I don't want her."
"I want what Sarah left behind. You're too late. The FBI has it all." "Not all," Blackwood said, his tone tightening. "She kept backups, physical ones. And I think you know where they are." "You're wrong." "I don't think I am." Behind Jack, Emma peeked out. "Daddy." Blackwood's eyes lit up when he saw her. "You should have kept her hidden," he said, lifting the gun. Hunter moved so fast even Jack didn't see it coming. One moment he was beside the couch. The next he was airborne, a mass of fur and fury. The gun went off. Hunter slammed into Blackwood, knocking him backward into the wall. The weapon skidded across the floor. Dr. Andrews screamed and dropped to her knees, clutching her stomach. Blood seeped through her fingers. Jack lunged for the gun, but Blackwood got to it first. They fought, fists, knees, elbows, years of rage behind every punch. Hunter, despite his reopened wounds, leapt again, locking his jaws around Blackwood's wrist just as the gun fired. The bullet missed Jack. Emma screamed. Hunter collapsed, blood spreading fast. Jack roared, slamming Blackwood to the ground. This time he didn't hold back. A punch, then another, and another, until Blackwood stopped moving. Until silence returned. Only now it wasn't empty. It was full of something much worse. "Hunter," Emma sobbed, crawling toward the shepherd. "Please, wake up." Jack knelt beside her. "He's breathing," he whispered, but barely. Sirens howled in the distance. Help was coming, but it might be too late. Hunter's breathing was shallow. His eyes fluttered. Blood soaked the bandages, the floor, Jack's hands. "You did good, boy," Jack whispered. "You saved us again." Hunter's tail thumped once, then stillness. "No!" Emma screamed. "Don't go." Jack wrapped his arms around her, both of them clinging to the dog that had carried their pain, their hope, their lives for years. The sirens got louder, closer, but not fast enough. Minutes later, the house was swarming. FBI agents cuffed Blackwood, barely conscious. Paramedics worked on Dr. Andrews. She would survive. Reynolds sprinted in, took one look at Hunter, and grabbed the radio. "We need a medevac." "Animal trauma. Richmond Priority 1. The medic shook her head. "He's not stable enough to move." Emma wiped her tears and stood. Yes, Hayes, the girl who'd once been silent, now looked every adult in the eye. "My mom trained him for this. He's playing dead. He did it before. He's just waiting for it to be safe again." Everyone froze. Reynolds crouched beside her. "Emma, what did you say?" "He's not dying," she said. "He's hiding." Jack met the agent's eyes. "She's right." An hour later, a helicopter touched down. Hunter was loaded onto a gurney, IVs in both legs, blood pressure hanging by a thread. Emma refused to let go of his paw. In the air, she whispered to him, "You promised Mom you'd protect us. You kept your promise. Now let me keep mine. I'm going to get you home." At the Richmond Veterinary Trauma Center, the team was waiting. They had prepped an operating room, stocked canine blood, cleared every schedule. "He's critical," the lead surgeon said. "Multiple reopened wounds, lung damage. He's in shock." "Can he make it?" Jack asked. The doctor paused. "If he wasn't the dog he is, I'd say no." Hours passed. The waiting room was quiet, broken only by the soft hum of the vending machine and the steady beeping of monitors from the back. Emma had drifted off, resting peacefully in Jack's lap. Dr. Patel arrived carrying supplies, and Agent Reynolds came in with the latest updates. Then, finally, the surgeon emerged. Jack rose to his feet.
"How is he?"
The surgeon removed his gloves and met Jack's gaze. "He's alive. He made it through surgery. But the next 24 hours will be critical." Jack looked down at his sleeping daughter. "She said he was playing dead," Jack whispered. The doctor nodded slowly. "She might have been right. I've never seen anything like it." That night, they were allowed to visit him. Hunter lay in a recovery kennel, connected to oxygen, wrapped in fresh bandages. His breathing was steady but faint. Emma was the first to step inside. Hunter opened his eyes just for her. "Hi, buddy," she whispered. "We're safe now." Hunter let out a soft whine. Emma knelt beside him, resting her hand gently on his head. "I told you," she said softly. "You're not done yet." Across town, the final pieces fell into place. Dr. Andrews' testimony was secured, and Blackwood's confession was locked in. Law enforcement raided dozens of locations tied to the trafficking network. Children were rescued, families reunited, and Sarah's evidence, every file, recording, and photograph, was released to the public. She became a national hero, but to Jack and Emma, she was something even more profound. The woman who had planned for everything, the mother who prepared her family even in death, the wife who believed in a dog when no one else did. In the days that followed, Jack kept a constant vigil by Hunter's side. When Hunter finally stood, wobbly and slow, but standing, the staff erupted in applause as he barked for the first time since the ordeal. Emma cried, not from fear, but because she knew the battle was over, and they had won. The sun rose over the Blue Ridge Hills as Hunter took his first unsteady steps. His legs trembled, muscles weak, but he moved forward, steady and determined. Jack stood beside the recovery kennel, a coffee cup in one hand and a leash in the other. Emma sat cross-legged on the floor, holding her breath. "You're doing it," she whispered. "Good boy." Hunter paused, looked up at her, and let out a soft huff. It wasn't a bark, and it wasn't quite strength, but it was enough. Dr. Patel stepped forward quietly, watching the scene. "He's healing faster than I expected. Strong will, strong heart." Jack gave a tired but grateful smile. He's always had more heart than the rest of us combined. Outside their small world, life went on. Blackwood was now in federal custody. No bond, no influence left to silence anyone. He faced multiple life sentences, and with Sarah's evidence public, there was no way back for him. Dr. Andrews remained in a medical holding facility, recovering from her injuries and awaiting trial. Her confession had filled in the last missing pieces. She had known about the trafficking ring and had chosen loyalty over morality. But in the end, her hesitation had saved Emma's life. Agent Reynolds quietly told Jack, "There's a very slim chance she might receive some leniency, not forgiveness, but maybe a chance at redemption." Jack didn't have the strength to care. All that mattered now was what came next. A few days later, Jack was packing a small overnight bag when a nurse approached him in the hallway. "Mr. Mitchell, we found something." She held out a simple wooden box, old, smooth, and handcrafted. It had been hidden under Hunter's bed. The FBI team discovered it while collecting evidence from your house. Carved delicately on the lid in cursive were the words, "For Jack," Sarah's handwriting. Jack's chest tightened as he reached for the box. Inside were two items, a sealed envelope and a small voice recorder. His hands trembled as he sat down in the waiting room. Emma and Hunter were still napping in the ICU. For once the world was quiet. He pressed play. Sarah's voice came through soft but steady. "Jack, if you're hearing this, something has happened to me. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you everything while I was alive. I thought I had more time. I thought I was being careful enough, but I also knew that if anything ever happened, I'd need you to finish what I started." Jack leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes stinging. "You always told me you weren't good with feelings, but you were wrong. You loved deeply. You just didn't always know how to show it. That's why I trained Hunter, not just to protect Emma, but to guide you back if you ever got lost. There's a light in you, Jack. I saw it the first time you walked into my life with that crooked smile and the loudest laugh in the room. Don't let my death extinguish that light. Don't give in to grief or guilt. You're still her father. You're still you." Jack felt the ground drop beneath him. Sarah's voice, after all this time, still held that calm strength, that unwavering faith in him even when he couldn't believe in himself. "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up. Love her, and when she asks questions about me, don't make me a ghost. Make me real. And trust the dog, Jack. He's smarter than all of us." There was a pause. "I love you. I always have. I always will. Keep going. She needs you, and so do I." The tape ended with a soft click. Jack didn't move or speak. He just sat there, staring at the wall, holding on to her voice like a lifeline. That night, he read the letter aloud to Emma. She cried. So did he, and Hunter, lying at their feet, let out a long, contented sigh. It was the sound of peace. Weeks passed. Hunter was discharged from the trauma center with instructions for light walking, plenty of rest, and follow-up checkups. But no one could stop him from doing what he wanted, staying close to Emma at all times. They returned quietly to Oakridge. The house still smelled of memories, but it no longer felt haunted. Jack spent a few days clearing out Sarah's office, not erasing her, but bringing her into the light. He framed her journalism awards and placed a photo of her with Emma on the mantel. He replaced dusty liquor bottles with books. And every evening, he cooked dinner, even if it was just grilled cheese, and the three of them sat at the table like a family again. Hunter, of course, had his own chair. One morning, as the season's first snow dusted the back porch, Jack found Emma standing by the sliding glass door in her pajamas. She was watching the pond, Hunter sitting beside her, his tail swaying lazily. "Thinking?" Jack asked, handing her a warm cup of hot chocolate. Emma nodded slowly. "Just remembering? Anything in particular?" She took a sip, then looked up at him. "Do you think Mom knew she was going to die?" Jack hesitated. "I think she understood the danger, but she hoped she could stop it in time." Emma was quiet for a moment. "She didn't just leave evidence. She left instructions." Jack raised an eyebrow. "She told Hunter what to do. She trusted him more than anyone, even more than you." Jack didn't take offense. He smiled. She was usually right. Later that week, Agent Reynolds stopped by. Out of her FBI gear, she looked more relaxed, still sharp, but more human. She brought donuts and updates on the case. "The files Sarah kept," she said, "are leading to more arrests across the country. Her work is helping dismantle something far bigger than we imagined." She paused. "She changed everything." Jack glanced down at the voice recorder on the kitchen table. "Yeah, she always did." As Reynolds was leaving, she knelt to scratch Hunter behind the ears. "You did good, partner," she said softly. Hunter gave her a look that almost seemed proud. That Sunday, Jack, Emma, and Hunter visited Sarah's grave. Fresh flowers were already there, left by strangers. Emma added her own bouquet of wild daisies, tied with a ribbon. They stood quietly for a moment. Then Jack took a deep breath. "I used to come here and feel nothing but guilt," he said. "I blamed myself. I blamed this dog. I shut down." He looked at Emma. "But you brought me back. Then Hunter. And you never gave up on me." Hunter didn't move. He didn't need to. Jack stepped forward and knelt by the headstone. "I promise you, Sarah, I'm going to raise her right. I'm going to give her the life you dreamed of. And when she asks about you, I'll tell her the truth. All of it. Even the hard parts." Emma came beside him and rested her head on his shoulder. "She already knows you were brave," Jack whispered. "Now she'll know you were also brilliant, kind, funny, and real." Hunter sat between them, silent but steady. The three of them, still here, still standing. Back at home, Emma pulled a worn notebook from her backpack and handed it to Jack. "What's this?" "My story," she said. "I'm writing it all down for other kids so they know they're not alone." Jack opened the first page. In careful handwriting it read, "My name is Emma Mitchell. I was taken, but I was never truly lost because someone always believed in me, because a dog named Hunter never stopped looking, and because my mom left behind a map. This is our story." 1 year later, the farmhouse looked different. Not just because of the fresh paint or the vegetable garden Jack and Emma had planted together. Not just because the porch now had a swing, but because the air felt lighter, as if the weight of grief had finally begun to lift, one breath at a time. It had been 365 days since they brought Hunter home from the trauma center, since Jack opened Sarah's final message, since they chose to live, not just survive. And today wasn't just any day. Today was Hunter's retirement ceremony. The small-town firehouse had never seen such a crowd. Rows of folding chairs were filled with neighbors, reporters, kids holding signs that read, "Thank you, Hunter." Even a few FBI officers were there. Jack adjusted his tie awkwardly at the podium while Emma stood beside him, proudly holding Hunter's leash. The German shepherd, now fully recovered, sat alert, chest puffed out, tail wagging gently. He wore a custom vest that read, "Retired, still a hero." Jack cleared his throat. "Folks, I'm not a man of many speeches, but today I've got to try." The room grew quiet. A year ago, I was lost. I was drowning in grief. And then everything changed. Not just because a bad man was caught, but because a dog refused to give up, and because a little girl believed in both of us. He paused, looking at Emma. And because my wife left behind a legacy stronger than fear. A few sniffles echoed through the room. Hunter didn't just save Emma. He saved me too. And today we honor him, not just for what he did, but for what he gave back. Jack knelt beside the dog and gently removed the vest from a small wooden box. He pulled out a new tag engraved with a simple phrase, "Always faithful, forever family." He clipped it to Hunter's collar. "Welcome to retirement, buddy." The crowd erupted in applause. Hunter didn't bark or move. He simply leaned into Jack's chest, closed his eyes, and sighed. After the ceremony, they returned home to celebrate in their own way, just close friends. A few cupcakes, a table scattered with old photographs, and laughter, something that had been rare for so long but now flowed freely. Reynolds stayed late. She was moving to a new field office in Seattle but had made the trip back just for this day. "You ever think about writing it all down?" she asked Jack, sipping iced tea on the porch swing. He nodded toward the kitchen, where Emma was proudly showing her homemade storybook to 2 other kids. "I don't need to," he said. "She already is," Reynolds smiled warmly. "Then I think you'll be just fine." That night, after everyone had left and the stars blanketed the sky, Jack sat alone by the pond. Hunter lay beside him, resting his head on Jack's boots. The water shimmered, the same pond where Sarah had hidden the truth, where a battered dog had once swum through pain to bring hope to the surface. Jack pulled out a letter, the last one he'd written that morning. He unfolded it slowly. "Sarah, you once told me grief would either harden a person or crack them open. For a while I let it harden me. I pushed people away. I pushed myself away. But you gave me a road back, through your voice, through Emma, through him. I wish you could see her now. Brave, funny, so much like you. It hurts sometimes, but in the best way. We're okay now. I think. No, I know. We're going to be okay. Thank you for never giving up on us. I'll carry you always." Jack folded the letter and gently dropped it into the water, where it floated briefly before sinking, like a promise absorbed into the earth. In the months that followed, life moved forward. Emma started 4th grade, joined the school newspaper, and published her first article, "How My Dog Saved the World and Me." Jack began volunteering at the local shelter, helping rehabilitate troubled dogs, just like Hunter once was. They built a new fence, planted sunflowers, and adopted a rescue pup named Cody, a goofy lab mix with more energy than sense. Hunter approved. He spent his retirement sunbathing, patrolling the porch, and sometimes, when the night was too quiet, curling up at the foot of Emma's bed, just like old times. On the anniversary of Sarah's passing, they held a small ceremony by the pond. No speeches, no tears, just music, candles, and stories. Emma read from her journal. "My mom used to say that love isn't something you lose. It's something you grow into. At first I didn't understand that, but now I do, because every time I look at Hunter, I see her love. Every time I laugh with Dad, I feel it. Love doesn't die. It just changes shape." Jack placed a small wooden carving by the bench, a German shepherd with angel wings, and beneath it, a plaque. "Sarah Mitchell, mother, wife, warrior." She lit the path. We followed the light. That evening, as they watched fireflies dance across the fields, Emma leaned against Jack. "Do you think Mom's proud of us?" Jack smiled. "I think she never stopped being proud." Hunter wagged his tail as if to agree. Emma giggled. "And do you think Hunter knows he's a hero?" Jack ruffled the dog's fur. "I think he knows he's loved, and that's what matters most." One last thing before we close this story. Thank you for following this journey, from the first bark to the final breath of peace, for believing in the bond between a girl, her dog, and a broken father who found healing in their love. This story wasn't just about danger or darkness. It was about endurance, loyalty, family, and hope. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What would you do if your dog tried to lead you somewhere? Would you follow without question? Or have you ever had a pet that you swear understood you better than most people? Drop your answers below.